Hi, hello, how's it going everybody? I don't really know what to say, but yeah, as you can see from my team, I'm trying out the 3 new Pokemon that dropped down to NU, which are Scolipede, Munchlax, and Primeape, and you better believe that I was one of those people who made a stall team with Munchlax, Alomomola, and defensive Scolipede, and this team isn't the best team ever, but it's definitely a lot of fun, something I might use some more in the future. Although I don't want people to DC on me. But yeah, looking at my opponent's side of the field, the only one major thing I see being a problem is going to be that Dragonair. Unfortunately for me though, my opponent does not have a spinner, which means any type of venture hazard I get up will be here to stay. So I'm going to be leading off with my Primeape, as he's going to be leading off with his Bastiodon. Right off the bat, I thought that the close combat was way too obvious, which is why I actually go for the U-turn, but it turns out that he actually stays in, and as you're about to see, he actually ends up going for the Metal Burst, which means if I did go for the close combat, my Primeape would have been annihilated. Luckily though I didn't, as he did go for the Metal Burst. I'm just going to stay in, risking him getting up his own rocks, which really isn't too big of a deal just because he doesn't have a spin blocker, so I should be able to rapid spin him away. So it wouldn't have been too big of a deal if he did get up his rocks, but he actually brings in the Dragonair. Now, expecting him to go for a Dragon Dance, I'm going to switch directly into my Optimus Primeape. Get it? Optimus Prime? Optimus Primeape? No? Okay, I thought it was funny. But I'm going to go for the close combat, and before anybody says, oh, why didn't you go for the Ice Punch? Because after Stab, close combat is actually stronger than the Ice Punch, which is why I did go for the close combat. As he takes me out with the Outrage, I am not going to be forced to bring in Marimaldo because Marimaldo is the only real thing on my team to be able to take a hit from this Dragonair and still be able to do some decent damage to it. As I take the Outrage, luckily for me, he actually ends up getting the 3-turn Outrage, which means I'm not going to have to risk him possibly going for a rest, which means after I take the next Outrage, I'm going to be able to knock him out with the Rock Slide, which is really good because Dragonair, the biggest threat on his team, is out of here. As he brings in the Kingler, I can't do anything to him, and I really don't want to take a possible Crab Hammer. So I'm going to switch directly into my Alomomola, as he actually ends up going for the Rock Slide, possibly predicting that. And as you saw there, that still does a decent bit of damage to my Alomomola, considering that, well, I'm Alomomola, and it's defensively bulky as all hell. But I think I predicted him to bring in Meganium, so I double switch into my Scolipede, and hoping that maybe he would want to switch out. I'm going to get up a Lair Spike, but he makes a good play, knowing that I would want to take this advantage to get up a Lair Spikes. He's actually going to go for the Leech Seed, which is a bit unfortunate because, as you can see, this Scolipede is defensive, and I have 2 Scolipedes, an offensive one with Spikes, which is Focus Sash, and this defensive one. And I ended up salving over my offensive one with this set and forgot to put Black Sludge on it, which means this Scolipede still has the Focus Sash, which means I'm not going to be gaining any recovery back from Black Sludge. So yeah, that was really stupid on my part, as I just completely did not pay attention to what happened. Scolipede in on the Gardevoir. I don't want to take a possible Psychic, so I believe I switched into my Alomomola, or I double switch. As I go for the Protect, he turns out to go for the Thunderbolt, which automatically tells me that he more than likely is going to be choiced in some way, which means I can freely bring in my Munchlax. And look, that still did an easy like 15% maybe, which is pretty awesome considering that Gardevoir is very offensively oriented, I guess you could say, considering that it has a high special attack set. Then again, Munchlax is very, very bulky on the special side, especially with the Eviolite. So I go for the Whirlwind, as he brought in the Kingler, and I Whirlwind him out into the Meganium. Unfortunately, I can't do nothing to Meganium, so I know he more than likely is going to want to go for the Leech Seed, so I'm just going to Whirlwind him out into the Bastiodon, which is really good because with my Primeape gone, I cannot really do much to this Bastiodon. So the fact that I'm going to be able to get residual hazard damage on it is going to be really, really helpful to me. As this turn, expecting him to get up his rocks, I'm going to switch into Marimaldo, but he actually ends up going for the Toxic, more than likely just wanting to force my Munchlax to rest sooner than I would have to, because he could be able to take advantage of those 2 rest turns. As I did switch to Marimaldo, which is really unfortunate because I do not have a Heal Beller on this team. I know that he is not going to be expecting the Earthquake because, let's be honest, what Marimaldo carries Earthquake? Well, mine does, and I'm able to get off an easy 60% on the Bastiodon. As this turn, I make a very dumb play, and he's going to make a good one, predicting the second Earthquake. He's going to bring in the Meganium on Marimaldo. In hindsight, whatever, I should have gone for the Rapid Spin, because if I did go for the Rapid Spin this turn, that means I would have been able to save Marimaldo for later on in the battle and possibly pass off a Wish to it with my Alomomola or my Hypno. Unfortunately though, I'm brought down to a point where I'm just going to die off to the rocks. As his turn, he makes a bit of an odd play and actually goes for the Synthesis, as opposed to taking me out, but you're going to see that that play really doesn't matter at all, and it actually ends up helping him out because now his Meganium is back up to full HP, which is really annoying because the only thing on my team that I have to deal with this Meganium is my Scolipede, which means if I lose Scolipede, then I'm going to get swept by Meganium, which nobody should ever say. But expecting him to want to switch out to Bastiodon, I did just go for I believe my third layer spikes, and even if I did go for the Mega Horn, let's be honest, that would have done nothing to Bastiodon. So as he gets up his rocks again, and this is where him going for the synthesis, as opposed to taking me out, really didn't matter because as you saw there, he's just able to get them back up. I'm going to bring in my Hypno, which I know he is going to Toxic me, but Hypno is really the only one thing on my team that I want to be Toxic that can still take out the Bastiodon. So after taking that out, he's going to bring in the Kingler, which obviously I don't want to take an X-Scissor or a possible Crab Hammer, but he actually ends up going for the Superpower, knowing that I would want to switch into my Alamomola, and even then Superpower does like practically nothing to my Alamomola. So I'm just going to go for the Wish. I'm just going to go for the Wish, knowing that next turn, after I take him out with the Scald, being able to get the Wish Recovery, I will be brought up to full HP and then just be able to go from there. As he brings in the Meganium, I know that this turn, the switch out is very, very obvious, so what I'm going to do is actually stay in, predicting him to go for the Leech Seed and not go for like the Giga Drain or something along those lines. As he does go for the Leech Seed, I'm going to be able to get off the Toxic, because now that I got off the Toxic, that means that I can either A, force him to go for the Aromatherapy, or B, go for the Giga Drain, allowing me to get a free switch into my Scolipede, and with me not having Black Sludge because I'm an utter moron, after a hit from Giga Drain, I should be able to live one more Stealth Rock switch in while still being able to take a hit from Meganium, be in Swarm range, and possibly take it out. But he does go for the Giga Drain. As this turn, I go for the Mega Horn, and that does a good amount of damage as he actually ends up going for the Aromatherapy. And even if he did go for the Synthesis, it really wouldn't have mattered because at that point Meganium was basically dead. So the fact that it went for Aromatherapy just kind of sped up the process of me taking out the Meganium. As he brings in the Flareon, I'm just going to leave in my Scolipede for fodder. As I miss a Toxic, he's going to end up going for the Flame Charge, which in the back of my mind I'm thinking, well crap, this thing is the Gut set, which means I guess it's kind of good that I miss a Toxic. Then again, he would have the Toxic Orb. But it turns out that he actually has Leftovers, which I found to be a bit odd, but you're going to see that this is a very interesting set that he's running, because he's going to go for the Will-O-Wisp. As I go for the Toxic, thankfully though he missed, which is, well, actually then again, it really wasn't a big deal that he missed the Will-O-Wisp because Alamomola would have been able to take any hit from this Flareon. So I go for the Toxic. As this turn, I believe I'm just going to go for the Scald or the Wish, and it turns out that he's going to go for the Rest. So this is a Rest Talk Will-O-Wisp Flame Charge Guts Flareon, which I know some of you are thinking is very, very odd, but let's be perfectly honest here. We have all had those sets that seem stupid that we want to run. I know I have, and you guys should not be judging my opponent because I sure am not, because I know I've had some of those sets where I'm like, this is utterly stupid, but I'm going to try it anyways. But luckily for me though, I have a Munchlax which has Whirlwind, I have 3 layers of Spikes up, and I have Rocks up. And I have Thick Fat, and I really don't care if he burns with the Will-O-Wisp, so I'm going to go straight for the Whirlwind as I Whirlwind him out into the Gardevoir, completely risking him having Psyshock. I'm going to go for the Whirlwind again as he actually turns out to have a Psychic. And even if he did go for the Focus Blast, if he had missed, that really would have been bad for him. So the safe play for him to do was just to go for the Psychic. As I Whirlwind him into the Flareon, obviously he's going to switch into the Gardevoir. Not really sure why, but at this point, Flareon is basically dead because as I go for the Body Slam, I'm going to be able to knock out the Flareon, and that's going to be the pretty narrow 3-0 victory in my favor. So that was definitely a fun battle. Hopefully y'all did enjoy. If I did, you know what to do. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to some more content. Enjoy the rest of your night, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm sorry if this narration is a bit off, I just have some other things on my mind. But yeah, with that guys, I do believe I'm out of here, so later.